going to change the world, but I guarantee that I will spark the brain that will change the world, and that's our job.
Tell me why, tell me why, tell me why. Why can't we live together? Tell me why. Why can't we live together? Everybody wants to live together. Why can't we live together?
Hello, all you melanated beauties, sun-kissed by God's lips. This is Coy with your black tea sip. I'm sipping power to pour you the truth. Go grab your cup. Let's fill it up.
Go grab your cup, because we are going to fill it up today. I was complaining because I was hot, because my AC went out in my house. And while I was thinking about all of that, I am thinking about how I was going to do what I needed to do to be here for you today to discuss Dating 101. The Supreme Court, which by law is the Supreme Court of the land, the supreme law of the land, has decided to overturn Roe v. Wade. Now you're saying, why does that matter? Well, I'm gonna tell you, and it matters a lot. And it matters because abortion is now illegal in the United States. You say, well, no, it's not illegal because they sent it back to the states. Well, you're right. They did send it back to the states. And a state like Missouri had a trigger law. So they have already written into the books that once the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade and Planned Parenthood v. Casey, which we're going to talk about because most people don't even realize Planned Parenthood v. Casey had an impact and reaffirmed Roe v. Wade. What they decided to do was, in Missouri, abortion is illegal. Even in the cases of rape and incest, it is only permissible in the very rare case that the life of the mother is endangered. Now, some people are saying, oh, well, that's good. I mean, I understand right now at the Supreme Court, they are actually rejoicing. And there are other people that are literally sobbing. Because you say, well, I mean, people shouldn't be having abortions. You need to be more responsible. Well, okay. But why is it that the woman is the only one that has to be responsible? Why isn't it that we have, listen, we had monkeypox, okay? We just heard about monkeypox, aside from the fact that they say that they are going to rename monkeypox. This was on, one of my sorority sisters told me it was on Morning Joe. I didn't see it for myself, but monkeypox is going to be renamed because it's racist. Was it only black people that's getting it? And so then you calling black people monkeys. I mean, this is the kind of stuff we are dealing with. And now we have to worry about whether or not women can have a legal, safe, healthy abortion. But a pandemic came around. Something we had never seen before. We haven't had a pandemic like this since the 1800s. That's when they had the Spanish flu. And a small town in Kansas City, right outside of Kansas City, closed off their borders and wouldn't let nobody in or out, and they had very few deaths. We heard about the stories. But the United States of America came up with a vaccine for something that had never been seen or heard or known about ever. They were able to get a vaccine. And y'all are out here steady shooting your bodies up with this stuff, even though y'all still getting sick. Y'all double vaccinated, double boosted, and you still feel like crap when you get it, but you're not dying, so you feel better. And then we have monkeypox. And now there's a vaccine for monkeypox. But there is nothing to stop a man from being able to have his little tadpoles with tails on it. You know, why you just can't get rid of the tail? Get rid of the tail, it can't go nowhere, it can't swim. There's no vaccine or shot or patch or pill for that. So the only people that need to be responsible are women. That is why Roe v. Wade was so important. That is why Planned Parenthood v. Casey was so important. Because all of the onus is on a woman, but a woman cannot make a child by herself. But she is the one. It's mama's baby, it's daddy's maybe. Even for the Supreme Court. You're saying to me that you think that maybe it's not that big of a deal because, people have still decided to have abortions even before, and they died. Many women died. Some were even sterilized. So when we start talking about what is happening to us and why we are in trouble, not just womanhood, but mankind, Roe v. Wade and Planned Parenthood v. Casey, that's important. It's to me seemingly the fact that perhaps we don't really understand what's at stake. We don't really understand why it's not okay for white men to decide that what you can and cannot do with your bodies. It's pitiful, it's shameless, it's sad, because where we are now is in a place that we should not be in. We keep going backward. If nothing else, if you're not the person who understands the whole thing about abortion, and you're not the person who seems to think that this is a big deal, it doesn't apply to you, then you should consider this. We are going backwards. We are not making progress. We are going backwards. And if we are going backwards, then what is happening to us cannot be positive, because we're going backwards. So now if we can determine that Roe v. Wade is not important, it's nonsensical, it's not justified, it's not a constitutional right, then what else will we be stripped of? What else are they going to take from us? So we started out talking about dating over the last few weeks, but the truth of the matter is that dating is going to have an effect, because some of y'all are out here just hooking up on Grindr and some of these other websites, apps. So you find yourself in a situation, even up to death of the mother, because it's not a viable pregnancy. You will have to carry that baby to term. They say, well, give the baby up for adoption. Okay. These children that are in foster care are not being taken care of. They're in foster care. If you're in Dallas, you know that we have Wednesday's Child, because the little saying goes, Wednesday's Child is full of woe. So Gloria Campos, who's a local journalist, came up with Wednesday's Child, and they feature children that they want to get adopted. Many of these children are high school students, not adopted. And I'm curious as to why this is okay for these people. Only 2 black people on the Supreme Court, and I can tell you that our sister, Ketanji Brown Jackson, didn't go for it. Even Justice Kennedy tried to find a happy median, if you will, to allow women to do what they want to do with their bodies. And Justice Alito won by saying no, there's no constitutional right to it. So I want to talk a little bit about what that means and why this is so important. In the court case of Roe v. Wade, it established abortion as a fundamental right protected by due process clause of the 14th Amendment. The majority in Roe further held that women have a privacy interest protecting their right to abortion embedded in the Liberty Clause of the 4th Amendment. The constitutional 4th Amendment says that you have a fundamental right to live your life with liberty and happiness. That is what the Constitution says. You have a right to live where you can be happy and not in bondage. That is what it means. To not be held in tyranny, where someone tells you what you can and cannot do and removes choice from your life. That is what liberty and happiness means in the Fourth Amendment. And now we have Justice Alito that's saying there is no fundamental right to abortion. So you have a right to liberty and happiness, but you don't have a right to have an abortion if it's going to free you from bondage and make you happy. So people seem to think that people use abortion as a birth control, and maybe some people do. I mean, I haven't surveyed the world. Maybe some people do. But I can tell you that most people who have an abortion are seriously concerned about what they're doing in a way that affects them deeply. And they think about it deeply. Many people pray about it. And when they make a decision to have an abortion, it is an emotional thing that they go through. Because no one is happy with the idea of having a child and they're not. This idea that you need the government to step in to protect the unborn is literally an oxymoron. I mean, I'm not fluent in it, but I do know it when I hear it. Because there's no way for you to be pro-life and pro-death penalty at the same time. It is impossible for you to care about those persons who have yet to breathe oxygen independently and not care about the people who are here struggling to breathe air independently. This is not only oxymoronic, it's cruel. Because my mother, who is in her early 80s, when I shared the news with her, you know what she said? Oh my God. What? You know why my mama said, oh my God, and what? Because she remembers the back alley abortions. They have this show called The Janes that's on now, talking about how in Chicago these women were having providing legal abortions to save people from what they call SCOTUS. Because there was a hospital in Chicago that actually had a SCOTUS abortion ward for all the women who got illegal abortions and ended up very ill and dying. But it wasn't just Chicago that had those. It was all over the United States. My mother told me about stories when she was at Lincoln University in Jeff City, Missouri, an HBCU that recently had to close its doors. The education my mama received from Lincoln U, Jeff City, Missouri wasn't just academic. Because my mother talks about how girls would talk about they had to ride the white wave. Because there was somebody in the dorm that helped them understand what they needed to do to abort a fetus or a zygote. Before it was even a fetus, it's a zygote. It's small, it's little, it's a bunch of little veins running from it. It hasn't formed into anything yet. And so they would drink a bottle of castor oil and carry a TV up and down the stairs. There were no boys in the boys' dorm carrying TVs. This is about control. This is about creating an environment for women that white women have been fighting against since Gloria Steinem and before her and before the burning of the bra. To be treated with not only equity and equality, but respect. And often I admit that I too have been very dismissive of what it was that white people were talking about when they would say that they needed or wanted to be treated equally as a man. I was dismissive of that. Some partly because of ignorance, but the other part was because I don't feel that black women and white women have their issues aligned. I don't agree that we share the same issues, because abortion and the inability to have an abortion for a black woman or a brown woman could literally mean poverty. It could mean struggle. It could mean the difference between being able to finish school and not. And you say, well, white women have those same problems. Perhaps they do. I'm not going to say that this is just a monopoly that black and brown women have. But we do know that when we start talking about the differences in financial resources, well, if it's a losing battle, we on the losing end. So I don't want to say that I've always understood, because I haven't. But I can tell you this, I understand it now. I understand what white women are saying about being able to have the same rights and privileges of white men who are making these decisions about womanhood and about women's bodies. This is Cora with the Black Tea Sip. I want to tell y'all how we got here. They've been working on this since 1978. They've been working on getting rid of abortion since 1978. And it started with the evangelicals. Yeah, I know y'all want to talk about dating, but my blood is boiling right now. Because, you know what? They don't need y'all dating. Y'all need to get married so you can have two incomes to raise the baby they gonna force you to have. This is Cora with the Black Tea Sip. I'm gonna take a quick break. Y'all stay with me. We're gonna talk about since 1978 how the GOP has decided they were gonna take over your bodies. And guess what? Gays, trans, you next. This is Cora. They're gonna burn crosses in our front yards again. I'm pissed, but stay with me. We're gonna talk about it in a minute.
Do you want to find a stable job in a growing field? IT jobs such as network systems administrators, cybersecurity, programming, cloud, and computer systems analysts are expected to increase 25% by 2022. Texas Premier Technology Institute offers training for top certifications such as CompTIA, Cisco, and Microsoft in less than 12 weeks. And if you're unemployed or underemployed, you may qualify for free tuition. Contact TPTI at 1-888-490-TPTI or check them out on the web at tpti.us.
What's up, Sir Charles?
Time, what's happening with it, baby?
I say, man, I messed up, man.
What you do, man?
I think my baby left me, man.
Oh, Lord.
I don't think she gonna take me back. You know that old saying, they say you never miss your water till your well run dry.
Trust me, I've been there, done that.
Man, I never thought that'd happen to me. I was wrong. For hurting you, baby, for hurting you. Yeah, I was so wrong, for breaking your heart in two, All you did was try to love me, baby, love me, but I was out acting a fool. So I'm asking you to please forgive me, baby. Forgive me, 'cause I'm so afraid of losing you. My daddy used to tell me, son, you never miss your water. Yeah, until your well run dry. I never meant to hurt you, baby. Never meant to hurt you. No, I never meant to make you cry. I never meant to make you cry. You never miss your water.
All right, this is Cora with the Black Tea Sip. If you're just joining us, I pulled out my soapbox and I am screaming and pounding my fist. We learned a little over an hour ago that Roe v. Wade has been overturned, which means the court case, Planned Parenthood v. Casey, has also been overturned. It also means that you no longer have a fundamental right to an abortion, and now it goes back to the states. And the states make a decision about whether or not they agree with you so that you can have an abortion. That you have to ask for permission from your state to get an abortion, to do what you want to do. Now, listen, this is not just about an abortion, because you got a lot of people out there that believe that abortion is murder, even though they don't believe the death penalty is murder, but that's a talk show for a different day, I guess. This is about, in a state like Texas, where I live, this is about whether or not a woman who, let's say, wants to have a child, actually ends up with the egg in the fallopian tube fertilized. It did not come through the fallopian tube and get fertilized and attach itself to the uterine wall so that it can grow and be a viable pregnancy and healthy baby. It actually gets stuck in the fallopian tube. That can, in fact, cause death to the mother. You can die from that. Now, in Texas, it is going to be very difficult and very rare, and the doctors will have to justify the procedure, so there's a process before you can even get it. You're going to have doctors, physicians, hospitals that are concerned about whether or not they're going to find themselves in legal trouble with the state. And you say, well, the doctors, hospitals have money. Well, that's true, but they don't have the state's money. And who wants to take on the state? So you got, a brown woman in a rural place in Texas who really needs this surgery, and they thinking twice about it. Because we already know that when we start factoring in whether or not we are considered important enough to care for, well, we usually lose. So now you have doctors and physicians that are concerned about whether or not they should even perform an abortion, even though it's not banned completely, it's just severely restricted. That is what we are dealing with now. Birth control pills. You say, well, I'm not even pregnant. So, I just take my pills. Like you're not going to have a slip up. But I take my pills. Okay, great. You may not be able to get them. Remember Hobby Lobby, the store? And there was a whole court case because they did not want to give, under the insurance, women the ability to get birth control pills. So they did not want Obamacare because that was woven into the fabric of Obamacare, birth control pills. That means your patch, your IUD, all of those things that you do so that you don't get pregnant are now in jeopardy. This is not just about abortion. It's about the right for you to make decisions about your body, your future, your health. You don't have that ability anymore per the Supreme Court, per SCOTUS, the supreme law of the land. That's gone. One court case and it's gone. Now, I want to talk about a little history. Y'all know I'm a history buff, and I feel like this is important. In 1992, it's a great year, the year I was made into AKA, but okay, that's not what y'all want. Planned Parenthood of Southern Pennsylvania, v. Casey, reaffirmed a woman's right to an abortion that was granted in 1973 by Roe v. Wade. And it was a 5-4 decision. It was a very contentious case. And then it said, what we're gonna do is we're going to restrict it in such a way that it makes it very, very difficult. There was, in New Orleans, there was a big sign that said abortion is still legal in Louisiana because they knew it was in jeopardy in Texas. And so you not only have to have the money for the services, you have to have the gas money. I understand gas is going down, but it's still $5 a gallon to get to across state lines. And then you vet your doctors. This is not your doctor, you just go to a clinic. The ability to make good decisions has also been removed from you. So January 22nd, 1973, Roe v. Wade decision of the Supreme Court, 7-2 vote. Okay, 7-4, 2 against, ruled that abortion during the first trimester of pregnancy was a constitutional right by the 14th Amendment, by the due process clause of the 14th Amendment. And the ruling included a framework for trimesters in which it left to a woman and her doctor to decide to have an abortion in the first trimester. A state could restrict but not ban abortions in the second trimester. And in the third trimester, when the fetus is viable to survive outside the womb, a state could ban abortion except when necessary for a woman's health or to save her life. Now, what we realize is that there were a lot of young girls being raped, molested, groomed. that were getting pregnant very early, 12, 13, sometimes 10 years old. They were hiding the pregnancies all over the United States. And they needed to have an abortion later than the first trimester. That was part of being argued in this case, because we know that there are things that happen. See, while they're telling you to put your child up for abortion, we know that there are cases where foster fathers impregnate the foster daughter. There is a website. And so do we have a graphic of the website of the women that are being purchased on the website? Let's see if we can get it. There's this website out of the Middle East where you can buy a maid. You can buy, just straight up purchase her, okay? And there are thousands upon thousands of pictures of women. And so there's this movement, an organization that goes and rescues these women. And I'm bringing this up because I couldn't help but think about the fact that some of those women are fatherless, no family, most of their lives being unloved and unwanted, or they were lured or groomed into a situation where they thought they were going to be able to work in another country and earn a living, and they weren't. And so while they're saying you're buying a maid, what you're really doing is you're buying a sex slave. And I can't help but think about this, because when we start to talk about alternatives to abortion, I really wonder if there's ever been a conversation about what is worse, being unloved, unwanted, or never being born at all. I am not an advocate for abortion. I am not an opponent of abortion. I support people making decisions of what's best for them and talking to their God about their decision. That is what I am a proponent of. I am a proponent of people being able to decide what they can and cannot handle in life, because a 13-year-old girl don't have no business with a baby. And yes, I said it, ain't got no business, a double, triple negative, because I mean it so strongly from the depths of my soul. There are so many issues here that we are not examining, and someone said that there's not going to be the parade of horribles that many people think. Hobby Lobby decided if you worked for them, they were not going to allow you, through the insurance that you pay a premium on through the company, to have birth control pills. There had to be a court case. Do you understand what I'm saying? This is not just about whether or not you can abort a fetus. This is about people are making decisions for you in a way that's utterly ridiculous. In Missouri, I talked about it earlier, there's a trigger law. So it said, as soon as Roe v. Wade was overturned by SCOTUS, then they restricted abortions. Abortion's banned in Missouri, except for very rare cases for the mother. They have been in preparation for this all of this time. The Pennsylvania Abortion Control Act was amended in 1988 and then again in 1989, adding 5 new provisions requiring informed consent, 24-hour waiting period with information provided on alternatives to abortion, parental consent. You're a 17-year-old girl, you get pregnant by your boyfriend, you don't want him to know, you don't want anybody to know, because you have a right to privacy per Roe v. Wade, and you want to have an abortion. Well, Pennsylvania said you got to get your parents' consent. What if it's the parent that created the child? I mean, I know y'all are shaking your head and putting your hand, but this is happening. This is happening. I mean, hell, we had Trump talking about he would do his own daughter. This is happening. And then for minors, in most cases, the notification of the woman's husband that she planned to have an abortion. So now you in a domestic violence situation. You already got 5 kids. He's raping you, because yes, a husband can rape a wife. And you want to have an abortion, but in Pennsylvania, 1988 and then 1989, 1989, you have to have your husband's consent. So this is about a man telling a woman what she can do with her body. Okay, that's what this is about. You said, well, there were some women on the Supreme Court. Those men told them what to think and do. I believe that. I mean, because that Barrett Cohen woman, she doesn't look like, they say, oh, she's a very smart legal scholar, blah, blah. She looked like she gets told what to do. Jump, is this high enough? Because a woman in her right mind would not think this is okay. Planned Parenthood of Southeastern Pennsylvania filed suit against the state of Pennsylvania, claiming the provisions were unconstitutional and in violation of Roe v. Wade. The requirements were struck down by a federal court, but all but the spousal notification provision was upheld by the U.S. Court of Appeals. Still, you got to get a man's permission. So if you want to have an abortion because you already have 5 children that he's constantly leaving on you, you're exhausted, you can barely care for them, 3 of them need new shoes and he's not trying to buy them, and then you get pregnant with your 6th child, you now have to ask his permission to do what you need to do with your body. This is a domestic violence situation. He's raping a woman, he's beating the kids, and you want her to bring another one. What's she supposed to do, put that one in up for adoption? But doesn't she have to have permission from him to do that as well? This is far greater than just whether or not somebody can walk up in an abortion clinic. So now, there was 19 years later, when in 1992, June 29th, the ruling cited what they call stare decisis, which means you already have a precedence. It's already here. The law is already established. And so based on the establishment of that law, we're just going to uphold it. We're going to adhere by law to what's already been established. That's called stare decisis. And upholding Roe. Now in 1992, they've been trying to do this for the longest. Now, here's the thing. The majority decision was authored by Justice Sandra Day O'Connor. Remember, every time they talk about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, they would piggyback on Sandra Day O'Connor. And Anthony Kennedy and David Scouter, who were joined by Justices Harry Blackmun, John Paul Stevens. 4 justices, Chief Justice William Rehnquist, and Justice Byron White, Antonin Scalia, and Clarence Thomas, dissented. In a 7-2 vote, the 4 Pennsylvania restrictions were upheld, with Blackburn and Stevens dissenting, okay? So they are steadily saying, and let me tell you why that's important. You said, well, that's Pennsylvania. What they do is they use the law that has already been established by the SCOTUS, and they pull back from it, and they say, well, listen, you already made this decision. Are you going to appeal your own decision? Are you going to go against the justices that said this was right? That is why these court cases are so important. Then you say a woman's right to terminate her pregnancy before viability is the most central principle of Roe v. Wade. It is the rule of law and a component of liberty we cannot renounce. That is what happened in 1992. Now we have in 2022, Dobbs versus Jackson's Women's Health Organization. This is how we get to overturning Roe v. Wade. Regarded the constitutionality of a Mississippi law banning most abortions after 15 weeks of pregnancy. The lower court ruled that the law was unconstitutional under Roe v. Wade, which guaranteed you a fundamental right to an abortion before around 23 weeks. Now, that's when 23 weeks is when the medical establishment considers, a fetus to survive outside the womb. So it's saying anything before the 23 weeks. In the decision, there's a 6-3 in favor of Mississippi's law overturning both Roe v. Wade and Planned Parenthood. Now, they go through and they cite a lot of things and they come up with it, but that's not why this is so important. And I'm going to tell you why it's so important. I'm going to tell you why this is troubling for so many reasons, because there has been a GOP movement, a Republican movement, to get rid of Roe v. Wade since 1978. Roe v. Wade came out in 1973. In 1978, They realized during the midterm elections, right before midterm elections, what needed to be done. Now, I'm going to take a quick break and I'm going to tell you, give me a like on the show, show me some love, and we are going to get into some other things. I do want to talk about dating. I do want to talk about Trump. Yeah, hopefully he's going to the penitentiary. And I want to talk about Uvalde and some of these conspiracy theories and, you know, kind of how my mind works. But I do need to explain Roe v. Wade, especially because y'all are out here dating. So y'all give me a like, show me some love. We'll be right back. We're going to take a quick break. This is Coy with the Black Tea Sip.
Nourished skin is healthy skin. Simply Ardor skincare products provides luxurious nourishment for your body. Indulge in rich scrubs and body butters and top it off with our sensational and unique aromatic lines of sprays and roll-on fragrances. It's simple and lovely. Simply Ardor. Love is real. Just spread it.
Asking me where I wanna be next to you. Baby, I'm thankful for the game that you're teaching me. I take it to heart. I want a piece of you. I wanna be yours. I wanna know what you're thinking. And when we talk, what you feel. There is a problem, babe. Don't know if it's real or not. I know what I feel. I need some more of you. You and me belong together. I don't mind showing you it's real. I feel your heart when it beat. Me and you, we on the same team. I wanna be yours. I wanna be yours. I got a smart mouth, but I want it to be yours. I got a good heart and it's beating for you. You don't have to show me it's real. I wanna be, yeah. I don't mind showing you it's real. I wanna be, 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 yeah. I wanna be, don't think I don't notice. I love how you glowing up. You taught me the basics about diamonds and snakes. Timing is precious and it's better to wait. Tick tock, baby, I'm listening. I wanna know more. Don't wanna be your apprentice. I wanna be yours. I'm ready to jump in the deep end now. Baby, I'm sure you got that high dollar love, babe, like Christian Dior. Don't wanna be your friend, baby. I wanna be yours. Real or not, I know what I feel. I need some more of you. You and me belong together. I don't mind showing you it's real. I feel your heart when it beat. Me and you, we on the same team.
All right, we're back. This is Coy with the Black Tea Sip. We are talking about the outrageous overturning of Roe v. Wade and Planned Parenthood v. Casey, which reaffirmed Roe v. Wade. And now we are back in the dark ages, if you will, of women's rights, women's liberty, because the Constitution says you have a right to liberty and happiness. You know, you have a right to that. So I want to talk about how we got here, because the truth is we associate the abortion right with the evangelical Republicans, right? So you have Christians, in my opinion, and you have evangelicals. They're not necessarily the same. I've had a lot of Twitter fights about it. They're not the same. You know, black people who are Christians do not consider themselves evangelicals. The evangelical GOPs really and truly are the people who are restrictive of rights of immigrants, rights of women, rights of children, anything that has to do with your liberty and your happiness. They are really trying to stop it. So 1978, during the midterms, they realized what's happened. So let's go back a little bit. You got Nixon, the whole Watergate mess. You know, it's the whole thing on TV now, so I'm not going to try to spend time educating you on that. Y'all can watch it on TV. But, you know, they broke in. They tried to bug the Democratic office because Nixon, a Republican, was trying to win. He got busted. So he resigned. They allowed him to resign. And then Ford, who was the vice president, came in because Nixon stepped down, and he pardoned him. He didn't go to jail, which is what Trump is hoping for, and we hope to get there. So I hope to get to it, not get him a pardon. So with that being said, you have this idea that after that, you know, whoever won, because you had Jimmy Carter coming in. Jimmy Carter was a Southern Baptist. You know what Southern Baptist means? It means white, not Baptist. Southern Baptist means white, now evangelical, usually Republican. The Southern Baptist Bible school teacher, knew the word of God, tried to live by the word of God. He was a peanut farmer. They joked about that later, but I mean, who don't like peanuts? So they decided that Jimmy Carter was going to be acceptable as a Democrat because he would have been in line with the thinking of what is now becoming in this early 1970s to mid to 1970s to late 1970s structure of the Republican Party. You had Jimmy Carter, but then Jimmy Carter he didn't walk lockstep with them, and so then that's when they came against him and tried to mock him and make fun of him, tried to find dirt on him, tried to say he was cheating on his wife. They couldn't find it in that because he was really a God-fearing man. I mean, understand, Jimmy Carter was the only one that could free the people in the Middle East. Like, he went and talked to them about the Quran and knew the Bible so well that he was able to strike a deal. I mean, only Jimmy Carter could have done that. Okay, just a little history. So let's go and talk about what happened. So you have the Southern Baptist Convention. They passed a resolution at the Southern Baptist Convention in 1971, in 1974, and in 1976. After Roe v. Wade, which was I think Roe v. Wade, the case was decided in 1973, affirming the idea that women should have access to abortion for a variety of reasons and that the government should play a limited role in that matter. And that surprised many people. See, this whole idea about abortion, that was a Catholic thing. That was not a Christian thing. And I'm not separating them in such a way to say who is and who's not. I'm saying when you think about Christianity, the evangelicals, the Catholic faith is separate and a part of that, is what I'm saying. And so that was a Catholic initiative to stop abortion. Now, that was not always a Republican initiative. So there comes a shift, right? And so it's desegregation. This is what I want to get to, babies. Here's desegregation. Now, in Alabama, I believe it was Alabama from my research. In Alabama, they make a decision after Brown versus the Board of Education that they are going to have these private segregated schools where your child does not have to go to school with a black or brown or red or yellow, because you know they give everybody a color, child. Now, it was almost 10 years later in Dallas, my mother was a teacher, that Brown versus the Board of Education was actually effectuated, where they desegregated schools. And many places throughout the South did not act in 1965, right? There was many years later, 1954, I don't know why I said 1965. 1954, it was 1964 and 1965 when they started integrating the schools in Dallas. So public schools had to integrate, 1954. Now, we talking about segregation in 1971 in Alabama. So you have these private schools. So there was a lawsuit that was filed that said they cannot do this. They cannot take the financial resources, no longer pour them into the schools, creating these poverty-stricken schools in Alabama and other states, primarily in the South, because of, we talked about it earlier before the break, stare decisis, which said Brown versus Board of Education, established law of the land, can't do that, right? So white evangelicals are pissed. And so they come up with this idea that they will then use issues that are political but spiritual in nature to draw people into the Republican Party. So you had the Republicans and you had Democrats and then you had Dixiecrats. And we still have these three parties today. The Dixiecrats, they either or on each side of the fence. You got Dixiecrats that vote Republican for Trump. You got Dixiecrats that'll vote Democrat for Joe Biden. You know, they kind of go either way. They're all Democrats are not Democrats. Many of them are Dixiecrats and they have a Republican mindset. So, you know, there's this alarm growing among various evangelical leaders, including Jerry Falwell. Remember that name? Some of you that have old, grandparents or older parents, you know the name Jerry Falwell because Jerry Falwell was this great Southern Baptist preacher. And the reason that I bring up Jerry Falwell's name is because he was one of them that had this nonprofit organization called the Moral Majority, and it was a Republican political action group that would come into play in a role in American politics. And in American politics is how you come up with this whole thing about abortion. Now, it started out because they were upset about desegregation, but it comes full circle because it is believed that by 2045, the Hispanic community, Afro-Hispanic, Caucasian Hispanics, will be the majority in the United States. So what do? You restrict abortion so that you can have more white babies born. Because let's be clear, this abortion thing is not about black and brown babies at all. This is about white babies. Because they'll tell you that black women are having more abortions than any other race of people, and that is a categoric lie. Unequivocally, that is a lie. White women are aborting babies or not having them at all. They just don't get pregnant. If they do, you never hear about it. They are not having babies. And the Caucasian majority is becoming a minority, and it is projected by 2045 that's going to happen. So if you can ban and restrict abortions, you can get more white babies born so that the Hispanic community does not become the majority. That is what all of this is about. And they've been doing it they've been planning on it since 1978. When oftentimes we talk about voting, and y'all usually log off and then come back to see what I'm talking about later. Y'all don't want to talk about voting. Voting counts because it was Trump that put these people in office. Hillary Clinton would have chosen a whole different kind of breed of person. Now Biden is doing his part. I think he has had 156 federal judges confirmed, but we needed them on the Supreme Court to stop this kind of thing from happening. And so now you have the evangelicals. They weren't initially bothered by Roe v. Wade. They were concerned about desegregation. But Roe v. Wade is what pulls everybody in. You pull the Catholics in. You pull the Southern Baptists in. You pull in the crazies. Let's be clear. Abortion was legal, and they were still killing doctors who were performing abortions. These doctors, that wasn't all they were doing, but they were trying to provide very safe ways for women to have children, have abortion who did not want children. And they murdered them. They blew up the abortion clinics. We used to hear about it all the time in the 80s. If you went down Rue Street, back when I was in high school and early college, if you drove down Rue Street, there was a clinic there. There'd be people standing outside. One lady, I never forget, it made the news. She was holding a fetus. I was like, these people are psychotic. And they were talking about it's God's will. Let me just say this, because I'm going to close this out, and y'all going to be mad at me, and some people are not going to ever listen to me again, but I'm going to go ahead and say this. Y'all can't keep laying, and I don't mean y'all that listen to me, I mean them other people, the people that y'all pass in the hallway and you get a little smirk too, you get your tight lips together and you do the smirk. Those people cannot continue to use God, because the God that they're talking about, the same God who killed all the firstborn in Egypt, that God, The same God that when the Israelites were led out of Egypt and they were in the wilderness and they started to doubt Moses and the plan that God had, the plan that Moses told them they had, and they began to worship Baal and they opened up the ground and all of them fell in, God struck them dead for worshiping Baal because he said, have no false idols and I'm a jealous God. You know, those of you that believe that. You know, I'm talking about the Christians that's like me. So the ground opened up. Children fell in there. That God, that's the God they want you to believe is supporting these efforts of restricting rights, of deciding who can and cannot have an abortion, that everybody who gets pregnant should have a child. But it's only for women. It's not for men. There is no, okay, you got 3 kids on welfare, Mr. Jones. Now you have a forced a vasectomy. They're not doing that. I talked about it earlier, how they're not saying you got to take a shot that stops your little swimmer from swimming. They're not doing that. So it's only for women. It's mama's baby, daddy's maybe. But this idea that this has always been the case, it has not. 1978 during the midterm elections and when they decided, okay, we can push this on you. And it worked. It worked because the Democrats don't ever have a good plan. Now, I vote Democrat, but I really feel like I'm an independent. They don't have a good plan. They just out here doing, Lord, whatever. I don't even know what the plan is. I mean, they put some kente cloths around their neck and they got on their knees and they put their fist in the air. They had Nancy Pelosi down there and Maxine Waters, and I know they needed help getting up off that hard floor. And I know those knees were cricking and hurting and everything else. That is what the Democrats are doing. These Republicans got a plan. They are literally out here changing the way you can live your life. And let's be clear. Gay rights coming under scrutiny. Trans rights coming under scrutiny. Regardless of how you feel about the gays and trans rights, they are about to deny them everything that they have given them. And you know what? Regardless of how I feel personally about the things that have been going on, because I know that Lela Waithe had that show on The Chi and said this was going to be the gayest show ever. That was unnecessary, Lela Waithe. That's unnecessary. Because most people do not want to see heterosexual sex to that degree on TV. It's not necessary. We all know where babies come from. We know what sex is. And if you don't, you could go to Pornhub for free, and whatever the other one is that everybody goes to. You can go there for free. You can get that on your phone. You can literally get porn. You can go in the bathroom at your job and get porn on your phone and put your earplugs in. Nobody has to be the wiser. Like, you don't have to have that on regular TV. And I think it is those kinds of things that is pushing this thing forward. Now you're going to have gay couples. They are going to get here because they keep telling you that marriage is between Adam and Eve and not Adam and Steve. They are going to get there, where they are going to stop people from having the right to get married. Gay people, that's not right. Regardless of how I feel about it, it's not right. Because let me tell you what happens when a gay couple has a child, whether it's an adopted child or before they had a right, when they were just living, cohabitating, right? When they had an adoptive child, or if one of the couples, that was their biological child, but it wasn't shared by both, of course. Before gay marriage, if that biological spouse of the child, or if that person who adopted the child died, the mate or the spouse or the partner to that deceased person had no rights to that child. So you had children that had been raised 10, 12, 15 years, 6 years, whatever it is, with these two people, 2 men, 2 women, and then one dies, that child goes into foster care. That's mate, spouse, partner has to then, cohabitation, common law partner, has to go, but then you really didn't have common law because they said and they didn't recognize it. That person had to go and then try to go through the process to adopt that child. So you had a bunch of children that were in foster care that shouldn't be because somebody loved them. Somebody was out there. People say, well, you just sue. Suing costs a lot of money. It is not easy to sue. It costs a lot of money. You got to get the right attorney. You got to get somebody who actually gives a doggone about what you're going through. It's not easy to live in a world that you are denied just basic rights. You know, you say, okay, well, the whole transgender thing, they need to do something about that. Okay, all right. A boy shouldn't be able to use the girl's bathroom because that person feels like they're a girl on the inside. Okay, all right. But should Governor Greg Abbott have the right to tell Child Protective Services to investigate parents of transgender children for child abuse? Is that right? It doesn't matter how we feel about it. Right is right and wrong is wrong. And in the words of my grandmama, ain't no right way to do wrong. It doesn't matter how we feel about it from a spiritual standpoint, from a morality standpoint, from a logical standpoint. Mistreating anybody and telling them how to live their life is wrong. Period. To tell a gay couple when one dies that child cannot remain with that other partner of that couple and has to go into foster care with perfect strangers, that's wrong. That's not right. To tell a gay partner of a dying hospital patient that they can't stay in the room because they are not legally family, that's wrong. That's not right. And that is exactly what happened. So now they got rid of Roe v. Wade, women got to have children. Now they're about to start repealing all the rights of gays and transgenders, regardless of how we feel about it, collectively, individually, right, wrong, indifferent. It is wrong to mistreat people. And that is exactly what overturning Roe v. Wade did. It opened up the door to mistreat people. My daddy, the great philosopher Coy Berry, always says that you don't have a right to mistreat someone to get your point across. This is Coy with the Black Tea Sip. We got to take a break. We got to pay some bills, and we're going to talk about some other things. Roe v. Wade was overturned today. Women are in trouble.
Hello, I'm Judge Kim Cooks.
And I'm Judge Andrea Lane.
And we are the host of the Fitness Judges from Bench to Bench.
We are broadcasting live each week on Fridays
at 3 p.m.
at the Fishbowl Radio Network, y'all. Join us each Friday on the Fishbowl Radio Network.
At 3 p.m. You don't want to miss
the Fitness Judges from Bench to Bench.
At 3 p.m. on Friday.
On Fishbowl Radio Network. Jump in. Podcasters, the name of the game is to get more visibility for your podcast so you can gain more credibility with your audience, thus more profitability. If you're ready to start syndicating your podcast and massively grow your audience and influence, then contact Fishbowl Radio Network today at 817-633-4880. Fishbowl Radio Network is one of the largest streaming platforms in the world. And now your podcast can be heard all over the world by the listening audience that Fishbowl Radio Network has amassed over the last 11 years. With over 6 million impressions a month and growing, this is a platform that all podcasters should be on to create greater visibility for their podcast. Jump in today and be a part of the Fishbowl family, streaming great live internet radio shows and podcasts 24/7. 817-633-4880. Jump in.
Hey DFW, it's Luna and Nika, owners of Real Dallas Properties and Management, here to serve all your real estate needs. Nika, tell them what we do.
So we're a Dallas-based boutique real estate brokerage, and we're full service, which means we can help with every and any type of real estate transaction.
That's right, we got your back at every stage of life.
Whether you need an apartment, a home rental, to buying your first home, selling that home, buying investments, to even property management.
And don't forget commercial, looking for a new space for your business? We got you on that too. You can reach us on Instagram at Real Dallas Properties or shop all properties on the market at RealDallasProperties.com.
Hi, this is Diane Marion Eunice, and I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. For the past 9 years, I have worked with over 300 couples in the areas of sexual health, communication, and conflict resolution. If you are interested in rebuilding connection and intimacy with your partner, please contact me today. I can be reached at 682-201-8175, or you can email me at diane@letstalkrelationships.org, or visit my website at www.letstalkrelationships.org. And remember, you can't heal if you refuse to deal.
Attention, Kiko is hiring. You heard right, Kiko is hiring. Kiko is looking for you to fill the following positions: seamstress, machine operators, forklift drivers, loaders, packers, and baggers. 2 shifts are available. First shift Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Saturday, and 6 a.m. to 12 p.m. overtime. And second shift Monday to Friday, 4:30 p.m. to 1 a.m. Saturday, and 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. overtime. Kiko offers great medical benefits just 30 days after hire and company match 401k. Visit us at KikoHome.com and submit your resume to Cadiano@lkiko.com. You can also apply in person at 5450 West Keith Boulevard in Dallas. All interviews are conducted in person. Don't miss this great opportunity. Get hired today at Kiko.
I'm not saying I'm going to rule the world or I'm going to change the world, but I guarantee that I will spark the brain that will change the world. And that's our job.
Tell me why. Why can't we live together? Tell me why. Why can't we live together? Everybody wants to live together. Why can't we live together?
Hello, all you melanated beauties. Sun-kissed by God's lips. This is Coy with your black tea sip. I'm sipping power to pour you the truth. Go grab your cup. Let's fill it up.
All right, and we're back. I always like to read the comments, and so on the break we have on YouTube some people that don't understand what's happening, but we'll go ahead and give them their little 30 seconds of fame. Somebody named No Freedom says, this is what women get for misusing and abusing the system. And let's be honest, black women are killing their children like crazy as well. Also, women should not have the right to kill their child. It's not a child. It's a zygote or it's a fetus. The medical community says it's not a child until it is viable to live outside the womb for 23 weeks. No freedoms. So these are just basic fundamental understandings of what's happening in the world that you clearly missed. But thank you for your comment, Honey Bun. Niner49 says separation of church and state, plain and simple, makes no sense, but we went ahead and read it. If you don't vote Democrat, you get this crap that happened today. Well, okay. I mean, that's probably true. Okay, but the Democrats also suck at finding ways to fix stuff. I mean, the lynching law just got on the books a couple of months ago. They've been lynching black folks and anybody who disagreed, people who were aligned with black folks and the ideas and thoughts, they've been lynching them for 400 years. But it took, till 2 months ago. But okay. So then No Freedoms comes back with another ignorant statement and says, so women can't close their legs. Also, last time I checked, men are forced to fight wars and stay behind for the woman and child. You all don't say crap about that. Who is forced to fight? There is no more draft, dear. So we read your little comments. You didn't make sense, but you were kind enough to say something to us, and we thank you all the same. Let's go on to something else. Bless their hearts. Bless their hearts. All right, y'all. I want to talk about dating because I know that many of you are dating and you got online dating versus in-person dating and you're saying you can't find nobody. Now listen, I was at the Home Depot looking much like I look today, if not worse, because I'm renovating our house. And so this man followed me. I was cutting down aisles and trying to escape, and he found me. And he was like, I said, sir, I'm just trying to shop in Home Depot. I'm just really not trying to make any new friendships or acquaintances today. Thank you so much. And I went on by my business. Now, what are y'all doing? Do y'all not go to Home Depot? I mean, are you not at the grocery store? Do you not pump gas? Like, what is happening? I mean, I don't know if you can really find somebody at the gas station because they are very annoying. Say, Miss Lady. If you are a black man walking up on a black woman, please do not say, hey, Miss Lady. It is annoying, and we don't want to talk to you. Let me also say this. If you do not have teeth, listen, if you do not have teeth in your mouth, stop. Wait until you either get some permanent or partial dentures or whatever it is, or till you master the art of ventriloquism so that you can talk with your mouth closed. Stop rolling up on people when you don't have no teeth. Stop doing that. Don't nobody want to talk to you, you don't have no teeth. They don't want to do that. Stop thinking that's okay. It is not. Now, in-person dating versus online dating. Recently, there was a woman who ordered DoorDash and put a message in special instructions and said, call the police. He's going to call me, but she meant kill me. And she had met somebody online, and they had, I think she said met him on Tinder. They had a knife at her neck, but I guess he was hungry before he was going to kill her, and so he allowed her to order food, and she wrote that in the special instructions. So those are the horror stories that you hear about dating online. And I told you, poor Lola, I swiped left, right, up, down, all kinds of ways, had her so messed up, and so we decided to do Lola's Love Life. But online dating can be dangerous. And so I'm wondering, what are y'all doing that you can't meet somebody just, I mean, I know some people that don't want to leave their home. They don't like to go out. And I'm like, well, unless he's the UPS man or the Amazon driver, you probably going to have a hard time regardless. So let me say this. I know some women who are actively dating, but it's a lot to deal with them. I'm going to go ahead and say this. This is going to get me in some trouble, but I'm going to go ahead and say this. They are actively dating, but they assume that every time they deal with a guy and it doesn't happen the way they thought it was going to happen, they assume he's a liar, he's this, he's that. That's unkind and it's unfair. So online dating, you say, they get a chance to know each other before. You don't really know a person until you know a person, truly. And it says, the Bible says it takes a season, for those of you that believe that. It takes a season. And that means 4 of them, all the seasons, to really know somebody. And people are jumping out here getting married, and then you saying he's not what I thought he was going to be, she's not what I thought she was going to be. Well, you didn't know her. And I think, even with online dating, even though you might be having these text messages and these conversations, I believe what you're getting is their representative. And I'm saying that because in getting that representative, you still don't know that person. You just know who they are representing themselves to be. And I think everybody does that to a degree. There are some people that are just real, and what you see is what you get. And they decide that, they're not going to hide it. They're just going to be who they are. That's great. Love that. Thank you. However, you do have the people that are putting on airs. So I want to talk about that. The people who are trying to be something they're not, they're either very angry. I've seen this on social media through Lola. They're either very angry, and they, all the women are a joke, and they this and that, and they want somebody to pay for their, hair and nails, or whatever the ridiculousness is. Nobody should have to pay for your hair and nails. I mean, it's your hair and it's your nails, and how were you getting by before you met? Like when he met you, were you raggedy with no hairdo and no nails? It's just bizarre. And so you find these people online, they're very upset, and they're talking about they don't have time to play games. Okay, and then you have the ones who are putting everything out there. Like one guy said he had 2 repos, and he had 3 children. He didn't have a lot of money. Well, why are you on the dating app, sir? Like, save something for later. I mean, I guess people need to know you had 2 repos if they want to build something with you, but I didn't understand none of that. So here's the thing. Maybe you're not, because I know people saying they're not finding people on online dating either. Maybe you need to curtail some of what you're telling and do like department stores. Maybe you should put, when the department store is trying to sell something, they put their best in the window. That thing that they think is going to draw you in is what they put in the window. Maybe that's what you ought to do on your dating apps. You ought to just put it out there, because this is the thing about dating apps that's not necessarily always the case in person dating. with in-person dating is a better way to say it. So here's the thing. Well, a dating app, all they're interested in is the aesthetic, what you look like. That's it. That's the reason that they look at you, that they touch they touch your picture, and then they may read some other things about you. When they meet you in person, you say, well, I mean, they see the same thing. Yeah, but the conversation is different. See, once he walks up to you and he talks to you, or vice versa, there's some women out here that are very bold, and kudos to you. If you walk up to him and you start talking, there is the aesthetic, and then there's the simultaneous conversation. That's not the case in dating apps. All they are deciding about whether or not they want to talk to you is the way you look. So you're automatically going to have to deal with that part of it, the aesthetic. And then they decide based on your aesthetic, are there other things that draw them in that actually spark, the conversation to text and later a phone call and then to meet up. But that is something different when in-person dating. So those of you, here's your dating 101 tips. Those of you that are dating online and you're not really finding what you like, you need to change what you're saying. I'm not saying change what you're saying about yourself, change the way you're presenting yourself. And I think, anybody who's an effective resume writer, ask them how to do it. Because they're used to stringing words together. Reach out to your friends, your network, your church, your sorority, your homegirl that work with you, and that's really good at writing. Ask for some help so that you're able to draw in the people you want to draw in. But I don't think it's wise to put out there all men suck and then you trying to get a man. All women are liars and you trying to get a woman. Like you hurting yourself. Last week y'all remember the guy on YouTube that said he would rather just have a bunch of beautiful girlfriends, but before that he was talking about why he couldn't find anybody. Sir, you did it to yourself. You are the reason you can't find anybody. And if you cannot find anybody, not even a man at Home Depot that's following you around, or the guy at the gas station that's talking about, can he pump your gas? And look here, brothers, no, you cannot pump the gas, because pumping of the gas is not hard. Buying of the gas may be challenging for some, because gas is $8,724 a gallon. So no, we don't need you to pump our gas, but you can go in there and drop some money on the purchase of the gas. That will help. Right now, there's a bunch of men that are logging off and saying I'm full of it because they don't think that they should be buying. I'm just saying, then, keep your comment to yourself about pumping the gas, because don't nobody need you to pump their gas. Gas is $8,000 a gallon. Buy the gas if you want to help. Don't roll up on somebody at the gas station, because what you're demonstrating is you don't have anything to offer, and y'all about to get mad at me, and all the men are going to be in my DMs and talking about me, but that is what you're suggesting. Now, let me be fair to the women. These women, the hair and nails women, they want somebody to do their hair, pay for their hair and nails. Listen, sometimes these brothers just don't have disposable income for your hair and your nails, because we know that hair and nails can be expensive. Really and truly, a good weave for some two bundles, which is average, could run, close to $300, depending on where you get your hair from. And then the install could be another $200. That's anywhere from $400 to $500 that you asked him to drop on your hair. Well, how were you doing it before? Were you bald-headed completely before? I mean, what exactly are we asking? Okay, so then you have some men that have been taught to anticipate the needs of their woman, but their woman, not the girl they just met and they started dating. You have some men that have it and don't mind giving it to you, but that doesn't make him a trick. I mean, they say it ain't tricking if you got it, but that doesn't make him a trick, so don't treat him like that. You wondering why you're in this perpetual cycle of dating, because one, you have the wrong attitude about what somebody's supposed to do for you to date you. If they're interested in you and they want to get to know you better, then they're going to date you. And you're going to have fun, because dating means that you go out, you get to know one another, and you have fun and you spend time with each other. That is what dating means. Dating also does not mean sex. So some of y'all got mad at me last week because I said if you are going to this man's house only when his child is sleeping, and then you got to leave before the butt crack of dawn because the child is going to wake up, and you feel like that's not how you want this relationship to go, you are in control of that. I had a lot of people telling me on Instagram, oh no, you're not meeting my child. I didn't say nothing about meeting your child. I said stop rushing people to meet the child. That's what I said. But people don't pay attention. They don't listen in full context. They just listen to snippets. And then they pass judgment. And that's exactly how people date. Many people are not, you don't even listen to what the person says. You just listen for a response. You don't listen for an understanding. So you don't even really get to know the person. And you're quick to cut them off. So there's this Twitter thing where this girl says that she films it and she talks about he is making me pay for my food because he's saying to her, are you gonna have sex with me? So he tells the waiter to bring 2 separate checks. This is all on Twitter. I couldn't make this up if I wanted to. And he tells her to bring 2 separate checks and tells the waiter, to bring 2 separate checks, and she cannot believe that he is making her pay for her food. And she said, are you really gonna make me pay for my food? I can't believe it because I won't have it. He said, you gonna have sex? And she's like, he asked her, is she with it? And she's like, no, I'm not. And then he says, how you gonna get home? I guarantee this was an online dating situation. These people did not meet in person. This is online dating. This is the only way this could happen to this woman. Had to be online. And I'm not knocking online. I'm just saying that it does provide a little bit of a cop-out. That you don't have to do the initial work that you do when you meet somebody in person. Because, if that conversation can continue at the first interaction when y'all first meet in person, that's a sign. If he says something stupid in the first 5 minutes of y'all meeting in person, that's also a sign. And I think that is prolonged and put off in online dating. So going back, the guy, he's saying no, and there's this woman who posted it. She took it from somebody else, and then she posted it and with her commentary. And she's like, you're a grown woman. It's 2 adults. You should be able to pay for your own food. Well, that's not what we're talking about here. We're not talking about whether or not she can afford to pay for her food. We are talking about whether or not this was a justified action of a man and how he's treating a woman. See, I talked about the first hour, how we are so under scrutiny, and white men, that legislators are trying to take all of woman's rights away from her. What she don't need is this. So let me tell you what's going to happen. She is then going to decide this is a faction of all black men. All black men are going to do this. She's going to be mad at all black men. She's going to criticize all black men. She's about to start a whole Twitter episode about black men. This is about to happen. This is about to happen. She is going to become bitter. Let me tell you what's happening in dating. This is what you can do if you want to date someone. You can make a decision to let go of all the things that someone did to you before, because understand, you are the common denominator. If your last 5 girlfriends, sir, all cheated on you, you are the common denominator. Now, maybe you're just picking sluts. It's possible. Maybe you like the slutty girl who really feels like the only thing better than some peen is some new peen. But that would also be on you, sir. Stop choosing the extracurricular peen girl. Just stop choosing her. Now you have to do some self-introspection and some soul searching, sir, to find out why that's the girl that you tend to bring home to mama. Ma'am, if all of your boyfriends were broke and used your credit card and ran up your bill, ma'am, you are the common denominator. You are picking the broke, use you up man. And you, listen, this is free 99. You can stop today. You can make a decision that that's not who you want to be. Wait, there's more. You can actually decide to really think about what it is you want. What it is you want ultimately. Are you looking for companionship? Are you looking to get married? Are you looking to find someone that you can just really share your life with, and you would let that evolve into deciding if it's lifelong companionship or marriage? But you have to make those decisions. But let me tell you what's happening with dating. I'm on one today. Y'all do what y'all want to. Let me tell you what's happening with dating. you are looking at the status quo and not looking at the bro or the woman or the lady. That's not what you're looking at. You're looking at a list and you're trying to check boxes. That's what you're doing. Well, then you play a role in your own disappointment, and the monster you're battling, you created it. Because if you are literally out here trying to find someone to share your life with, then you have qualities that you want. Granted, not gonna tell you to settle, not gonna tell you not to find the man that you want. But you are 5 feet tall and you want a man that's 6'2". Why? Why do you want a man that's 6'2"? If you 5 foot tall and he's 5'11", he is 6'2" to you. Cause you're almost a midget, ma'am. I mean, it's a yellow brick road wherever you want. Follow, 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 follow. And then you want to follow in behind somebody 6'2". Now, if you meet a man that has the qualities that you like and he's 6'2", bingo, then that's one thing. But you have discredited all the 5'9" brothers. You 5'2". Your heels are what? 5. You would have your heels at the most. Your heels are a 5'6". Okay. So he's 5'9", 5'10". You at your tallest, you're gonna be what? 5'7", 5'8". Most of y'all ain't rocking heels like that. Let's just keep it 100. So you're really 5'5", 5'4" in many cases. He's towering over you. He got 5 inches. See what I'm saying? This is silly height requirements. Now, if you're a tall woman and you're 5'11", almost 6 feet tall, I can understand you want a brother that's tall. But even if he's 6 feet tall, if you are 5'11" and you wear heels, you still gonna be taller than him. I mean, how many brothers are really out there that's 5'5" that you could pick from? Because if they were in abundance and that's your primary requirement, because y'all all say, I want a man that's 6'2", y'all always lead out with the height. Then you are limiting what you could actually have in a relationship. You're limiting yourself, and then you blame society for not providing you beyond your limits. Well, that's a you thing. So let me just suggest this, because y'all gonna do what you want, and I'm certainly not out here like the white Republicans trying to take choice away from you, but I do want to help. I did have someone ask if I was in I'm offering all this advice, and then she said, and you don't get to tell people how to date. Well, actually I do. I get to tell people every Friday. That is my fundamental right. So I am offering this. When she said, are you in a committed relationship? Do you have somebody or something like that? I do. I just don't broadcast it because his business is not the world's business. I can tell my business, but it's not right for me to tell his. See how I try to be fair? See that? See, Jada Pinkett Smith tried not to do that with Will. And now that poor man done went all the way to Taiwan trying to get his life right. He said he didn't want to be filmed. He didn't want to be part of that. And maybe he just didn't want to for that moment. But she decided she was going to do it anyway. That is a breakdown in relationships. When you decide that what you want is more important than what this other person needs. I know that my man doesn't like all of that. He just doesn't. It has nothing to do with whether or not somebody I told y'all back in the day asked me if we were incognito. We not incognito. We go out all the time. I mean, his family knows about me, his children, like my children know him. We're not incognito. We hung out together with his son last week. We're not incognito. He doesn't want to be on blast. He wants to have control of his image and what people say about him and what goes on, and he has a right to that. And it would be unkind and unfair for me to try to take that from him. Because a relationship means that there is a compromise, but you have to consider the other person. So let's be clear. If you want someone that is 6'2" and you are 5 feet tall, ask yourself, does this 6'2" man want somebody 5 feet? I mean, maybe he does, but what if he doesn't? So all the men that don't want the 5 foot girl, you just gonna strike them off the list. This doesn't make sense. You want somebody that's 6 figures. I told you before, if he got kids, 6 figures. What kind of 6 figures we talking about? Are we talking about $100,000? Because that money is taxed unless he has a bunch of children. So I think what you asking for. So let's say I want a man that that I can wear my heels with, and he's not going to be feeling funny or feeling intimidated because I'm taller than him. Okay, that to me, that's fair. You want that kind of man. So put that out in the universe. Go ahead. Put that out there. Okay, now, so we got that out there. You want a man that's financially independent. That means that whether he makes $100,000 a year or if he makes $50,000 a year, he takes care of his money in such a way that he has financial freedom. He manages his money. You're not having to worry about if y'all take a vacation or the light's gonna be kept on. That's what that means, okay? You don't want to come home from your vacation and you've hit the switch and it's darkness. And you up there praying to God, asking him to let there be light. So you don't want that, right? So you want a man with some financial independence. Okay, if you the kind of girl that you want to be treated like a princess or a doll baby, I ain't never understood a grown woman want to be a princess, but okay, if that's your thing, I'm not going to be critical. You want somebody to take care of you, then you ask for that. Ask for a man that is nurturing, that can take care of your needs, because taking care of your needs is not always financial. See, I'm renovating my house. I could not get the kitchen window to close all the way, and I tried. My man was traveling for work. When I told him, he was like, okay, I'll be over there. I hadn't told him that I couldn't get the window closed. He was like, what you mean? That is taking care of my needs, because I needed that window closed because we had little creatures coming in, little bugs, and I went and bought some Zevo, Zappa, and all kinds of things because I couldn't. It was just this tiny little opening, but it was air conditioned in the house and the bugs were coming in. You know what he did? Came immediately to my house after he got into town and closed the window. That is taking care of my needs. It didn't cost him nothing but the gas. You know, gas is $8,000. But that cost him gas. But he didn't care about that. He was coming to see about what I needed. Then he changed the air filter and whatever else I needed. He chuckled and he did the things I asked him to do. That is taking care of your needs. Maybe he doesn't have a lot of money, but he's a good guy and he's got potential. But if you like sugar babies and he keeps you in sugar babies, that is a nurturing man. That's a man that's going to see about you. That's a man that's going to make sure you have new tires. I haven't had to worry about that. My daddy, when I was married, I did have to worry about it, but that's a talk show for a different day. And then, that's why I'm not married anymore. Where we going? We're going to get you some new tires. You need some new tires on your car. That's a man that's seeing about you. So maybe he's not buying the Louis Vuitton bag, but you know what he is doing? Making sure that your car is safe for you to drive. I don't want y'all to mix up what's happening in dating. I think a lot of times social media is messing you up. And I keep saying that. You're looking at what these other people say they have. A lot of that is smoke and mirrors. Now, I have a sorority sister. I love her. She's very dear to me. And she's always on social media. But there was recently this whole thing, birthday and the gift, and it just seemed odd. But that's what she won't do, and he was part of it, and kudos to them. I love them as a couple. But I'm saying, if you look at what she's got going on and your man is not doing that, then you start feeling like your man is inept because he's not doing what her man is doing. But listen, she will share with you that her and her man have had trials and tribulations and struggles. And they're stronger because of it. Both of their children are college graduates. One working, one is in graduate school. They are, 50 years old. And grown children doing their thing, working, being independent, they have a little extra income. Don't compare that to the man who's not in that situation, who is like me going to AAU game. I gotta go to Houston when I get off the radio. So y'all need to understand, and if that is not the kind of man that you want, you don't want the man that's still having to take care of children and he doesn't have the money, then stop dating him. If you are a man that wants to settle down and you want a family, stop dating the woman that already has 2 children and doesn't want any more. Stop dating those people. A lot of this information is on the online dating app. Read it and believe it. Maya Angelou said, when a person tells you who they are, believe them the very first time. It's like a Bible scripture. Y'all always leave out the last of it. You just say, when a person tells you who they are, believe them. No, she said the first time. So if they are saying they don't want any children, they don't want children. If they are saying they're looking for somebody to build with, they want to build people use the word, they want to build an empire. I mean, okay, I guess they're going to get some stone and some mud clay and put it together like Egyptians. But they want somebody to build with because that is subjective and that has various terms. But if you know that your credit is a 450, you living in an apartment and you live in check to check because you can't keep yourself out of Jimmy Choo and Christian Louboutin shoes and you don't have any money. This man saying he wants to build. Ma'am, you can't build. Unless you're going to build like a clubhouse or something, like kids used to do with the 2 chairs and a blanket full of your shoes. So be honest about who you are when you expect them to be honest about who they are. Because some of y'all are failing in these dating streets because you're just not honest with yourself. This is Call with the Black Tea Sip. I got to take a quick break. I'll be right back. Stay with me.
Do you want to find a stable job in a growing field? IT jobs such as network systems administrators, cybersecurity, programming, cloud, and computer systems analysts are expected to increase 25% by 2022. Texas Premier Technology Institute offers training for top certifications such as CompTIA, Cisco, and Microsoft in less than 12 weeks. And if you're unemployed or underemployed, you may qualify for free tuition. Contact TPTI at 1-888-490-TPTI or check them out on the web at tpti.us.
Talked about a lot today. We've talked about Roe v. Wade was overturned today. We've talked about dating, and I want to talk about, I know y'all saying, wait a minute, but no, I got to go on to other things now. Y'all just please stay with me. I want to talk about January 6th Trump hearings. Trump might be going to the penitentiary. It is wonderful news. I know some people are saying, no, it's not, nothing's going to happen. I've had several friends to say that people very close to me saying nothing's going to happen. Oh, but wait. So they have Trump, dead to rights. They have the former acting attorney general. They have the deputy attorney general. And they have the leader of, or I guess the top person of the Department of Justice. So let's talk about what happened. I just want to do a quick little recap. I want to do like 5 takeaways from the 5th day of the January hearings, which was phenomenal. I was so excited. Okay, January 6th. So the committee talks about all of the things that have happened with the Rude Boys and some of these other fringe white supremacy groups. And let's be clear, these white supremacy groups, they kind of were born out of that Jerry Falwell era that I talked about in the first hour. These groups were born out of that whole idea of desegregation. So they've been doing this a long time. But Trump thought that he was going to be able to do like Putin and Kim Jong-il of North Korea and stage kind of a coup, if you will, and to take over. So it started out with these 2 black women. This was the 3rd day, I think, of the hearings. The 4th day of the hearings. And they had a woman and her mother. So they said that she had been working for the woman had been working for the election committee for about 10 years. And that when Trump tried to get them to denounce Biden as the true and rightful leader of the free world, she was targeted. And so, and let me tell you what's so wrong about this, is that in Georgia, where Trump really tried to get them to go and find these votes. Remember, he said he just needed 11,000 some votes. It was really telling, because what he was saying was, not only does he need these 12,000 votes to win, so he knows that he didn't win. Now you got Kellyanne saying that Trump really believes he won. So that also shows that he is delusional. But you have the former Georgia election worker. Her name is Wandria Shay, and they called her Shay Moss. And her mother, Ruby Freeman, and people call her mother Lady Ruby. And she, had built her own business there, very well known in that place. So Shay says that she really enjoyed the fact that people knew her. They knew they could trust her. They knew that when they had questions about voting in Georgia, she was someone that they would seek out to help them. So children who went to college, she would be the person they would look to, and she would be able to help them. And she would say, well, no, they don't have to come in. I can make sure they get an absentee ballot application, and then they fill it out. And she was just a trusted resource there for many people in that community. She talked about how she had actually driven to the hospital to give someone a ballot application because they weren't going to be able to vote in person. They were ill. And she took pride and joy in that. Now, this is someone that loves her job. This is the kind of people we want as election workers. Now, right after that happened in Georgia, when Trump decided that he had won and he was the he was the rightful ruler of America, free world, she was called into the office by her boss and his boss, and they asked her, had she seen some things that were on the internet? She had not. And they showed her, and they had her name and her likeness, and they were talking about she and her mother were lying and stealing votes from Trump and giving those same votes to Biden. And there was a whole faction of people that came out against her to the point where they no longer felt safe. And they were literally terrorized by the president's lies, because in one interview, President Trump, or then President Trump, literally called her name 17 times in one interview, talking about she specifically stole votes 17 times. I mean, that's far worse than any parrot I've ever even heard of. 17 times, to the point where her grandmother, her mother's mother, was terrorized in her home. People showed up. This older lady in her 80s got up, went to the door. People bum rushed the door, let themselves in, trampled through her house looking for Shay and Lady Ruby. In this woman, to terrorize this woman. They would send pizzas to her house all times of the night, and it would be hundreds of dollars of pizza, and the people would be expecting them to pay the bill, which I didn't understand, because I'm like, what pizza company now will allow you to pay when you get there? I didn't know it was any more COD. I didn't know you could do that, but this is a little small town in Georgia, and everybody knows Georgia backwoods, so, I mean, it's possible. But you have the president of the United States lying and sending people out to terrorize 2 black women. See, a lot of times when I say black women don't have the same fight as white women, people get mad at me. White people in particular get mad at me. They come over my Facebook page and call me a monkey and all kinds of things. I'm the cutest monkey anybody ever saw, but so it doesn't bother me if that's the case. So I'm just like, okay, but I have heard of people saying that they were bothered by other people, but I haven't heard where the president of the United States specifically targeted 2 women and then set in motion for them to be terrorized by his followers. Hadn't heard of that. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I haven't heard of it. But we do know that Shay and Lady Ruby were terrorized, and the president of the United States called their name in particular so that people would set their sights on them. So Shay, like many other people, has had to quit her job. She no longer works and does what she loves. Her mother is not able to function the way she once had in her business because she is afraid. They have been terrorized. Now, if I tell somebody that somebody does something to me, and I say it again, and I'm going to knock your head off your body, that is considered a terroristic threat. And I can be arrested for those words. If you tell somebody, you come over here again, I'm going to kill you, you can be arrested for that. That is a terroristic threat. I'm trying to understand how these people can trample through this woman's house and there are no repercussions. Did they not know who the people were? I don't believe that this is a small town. People talk. I mean, Dallas is a big city. It's a small town. We only had 2 degrees of separation. So I don't understand why we didn't hear about arrest. But we did not. And then we heard about Trump literally planning a coup with the former acting Attorney General of the United States, the deputy and leader of the DOJ. And they all said no. So they demoted the former acting Attorney General and put Clark in place. And Clark is the one who pled the fifth, 15, 17, 18 times, which he has a right to not self-incriminate, but he couldn't answer any questions. So if I ask you, did you take the water, and you say, I plead the fifth, and then I say, well, do you know who took the water, and you plead the fifth, and I say, do you know where the water came from, and you take the fifth, and then I say, well, do you have any idea of who originally bought the water, and you take the fifth? That means you know all of those answers, and you know that you're going to be in trouble for them, so you don't answer. You have a right by Constitution, by law, to not say things that are going to get you in trouble. But it's kind of like, how you be asking a person a question and they don't answer and their silence gives you the answer. So we already know that Clark did all of the things to try to help Trump, and which ultimately set January 6th in place, where they tried to hang Pence and Nancy Pelosi. Trump is going to the penitentiary. I'm so excited. Because I don't think Trump is going to do well in the penitentiary. There are no McDonald's hamburgers in the penitentiary. And, they make you get up at a certain time in the penitentiary. And, Trump is not good with making friends. So, his friendships are based on, now he used to be very loyal, but this has put a huge burden on his loyalty. And so Trump he's not good with making friends. And then the first time you do something against him, then he wants to cut the friendship. I don't think that works in the penitentiary. I mean, I don't know. He probably should hire a prison consultant. Because, they have those. And you can get a prison consultant, and it's for federal white-collar crimes, which, he doesn't fall into the low status of a state crime unless Georgia does what they need to do and New York does their job. Then we get state crimes. But let's stick with federal for this one. Then you have Trump that would actually be indicted. And it's my belief from my research that if he gets a federal indictment, he cannot run for 2024 election. Even if he's not convicted, by the time he just gets a federal indictment, it cuts him off. And I think that's what we're going for. Because Trump has screwed the pooch. He's even attacked his daughter. Poor Ivanka. Her interview was 10 seconds, and he came out and said she didn't know what she was talking about. She did until that moment. She knew what she was talking about until that moment. So you have Trump, and he's out there. And now all of the Proud Boys and all the people that scaled the Capitol, broke in, tried to hang Nancy Pelosi, tried to hang Mike Pence, walking through the Capitol, they have all pled guilty. And guess what they're doing? They're talking. They're saying, I did it because Trump told me to. I did it because Enrique, who is the leader of the Proud Boys, he is very dark-skinned to be associated with a white supremacy group. It's like a Clarence Thomas kind of thing. I don't know. It's kind of like, I don't know, tantamount to the Kim Kardashians and the whole Kardashians of the world. Like, they change you. So I think he's with a white woman, and she made him believe he was white, and then got him started with a white supremacist group that ultimately was involved as the primary resource to overthrow the American government. But this dude is as dark as me. It's just the things that make you go, it's very perplexing. But anyway, now people are starting to talk. He is starting to talk. And so the plan for January 6th was literally hatched in the Oval Office. And like Nixon, see how history repeats itself? That's why you got to know it. Like Nixon, there were 18 minutes of tape completely erased that literally what people believe was the meeting that made Watergate happen. Well, fast forward, there are tapes missing and documents and transcripts that have been shredded of the meeting between Enrique, the Proud Boy leader, and Trump. History repeating itself. But anyway, it looks like Trump just might be going to the penitentiary. Let's all cross our fingers, boys and girls, because if he goes to the penitentiary, then his children will follow, because I believe they're going to try to put Ivanka up at some point, and we do not want that to happen. This is Corey with the Black Tea Sip. We're going to talk about Uvalde and conspiracy theories. I'll be right back in a minute.
Nourished skin is healthy skin. Simply Ardor skincare products provides luxurious nourishment for your body. Indulge in rich scrubs and body butters, and top it off with our sensational and unique aromatic lines of sprays and roll-on fragrances. It's simple and lovely. Simply Ardor. Love is real. Just spread it.
Yeah, if you came to get some real music with a real vibe, then you came to the right spot. You know what it is. 99.9. It's DJ Candy Can. Here with Loose Cannons. Letting y'all know we about to do this like a fresh pair of Lokes on Easy E. Baseline shade.
Let me put my shades on. It's cooler than being cool. Let me put my shades on. Yeah. It's cooler than being cool. Two froze with shades on. I guess you get what you asked for. You can't bullshit the matador. I see the sunset, I see the shore. To the core concrete, I go hard when it pours. When it rains, pain. Club a lane, no shame. Cock back cane, Bob gun, go pain. Top hat cane, come a bun, 2 chains. Looking like a Millie, having fun, Lil Wayne. I've been this way since I paid for my school grades. By the pool, sipping Kool-Aid. With Shay in the finger waves. Play dates in the backseat, bitch, I'm on my Cool J. Take pride in surviving the stakes as I take the ride. Just hoping don't break supply. First to rise, I want the whole cake, the pie. The lights are blinding, hold up, let me put my shades on. It's cooler than being cool.
All right, and we're back. This is Corey with the Black Tea Sip. If you're just joining us, we've talked about a lot of things that have happened. We've talked about Roe v. Wade being overturned by SCOTUS today, a couple of hours ago. We've talked about dating. We've talked about Trump is going to the penitentiary, I hope. All the evidence is there for him to go. It is sedition. It is treason. And they should lock him up in an Abu Ghraib kind of prison. But, you know, hope springs eternal. And I want to close out talking about Uvalde because, you know, I do want to talk about the things that are going on in the world. But I want to talk about it from a conspiracy theorist perspective. And you said, well, why would you do that? I just feel like you need to have the information, and these are the things that go on in my head. Uvalde. What we know now is that they waited outside for 78 minutes before they entered the building, and it was 60 minutes after they arrived before the gunman started to shoot an 18-year-old equipped with an AR-15. So we have had reports that officers got their own children out. And we saw the woman, a lot of y'all reached out to me and said that was me, and you're not wrong. The woman who went in and got her own child. So there's these discrepancies about what really took place. And one of the things that concerns me is they had all this firepower. I'm going to read some of it. So it shows that Robb Elementary School, there were officers that wanted to get into classroom 111 and 112. One of the officers' daughter was inside, and another officer had gotten a call from his wife that she had been shot and she was bleeding. There were 2 doors and a wall that stood between them and the 18-year-old shooter. Now, 20 minutes after the shooting started, a DPS, Department of Public Safety officer arrived, and he wanted to know if there were kids still in the classroom. Now, listen, they had an axe-like, it's called a Hilligan bar. It's like an axe-like entry thing that forces people in, that will force you into, it's like cuts through the door. That usually is used by firefighters. They had that. They had ballistic shields that were arriving on the scene. They had plenty of firepower. They had 2 rifles, and they had officers that were booking to go in, and they weren't allowed. And then you have where there's still questions about who was inside, how many children, and then they said the door, because I talked about that axe-like thing, but the door was open, the same door that they went, and nobody checked the door. Like, nobody said, is the door open, and went and pulled that door open and said, this door is open, we don't need all of that. So there were 77 minutes on May 24th that that the gunman was there, and then at the end of those 77 minutes, 19 students were done. But there was a long time before he even started shooting that they were actually on the scene. Now, you know all of that. We've heard all of that. It's ridiculous, the firepower that they had, and they didn't use it. Here's what I want to say. Remember the gunman that shot up the Batman movie? Y'all remember that? And we talked about he was crazy, he was this, and he looked deranged. He looked crazy. Well, the Associated Press reported that the attorney representing him, and yes, everyone deserves zealous representation. So even though you may think that person is the scum of the earth, you cannot fault the attorney for doing their job. She said, when they asked for a plea, she told the judge she did not think that he was capable of giving a plea at that time. It was as if he had been drugged. And he seemed completely lethargic and completely out of it and did not have a clue to what was going on. And so the judge said, does he not understand what's happening? She said, Your Honor, I don't even think he understands where he is. That was in the Associated Press. Now, the Associated Press is the leading news source. All news gets their news from the Associated Press. I mean, now, well, that used to be the case. Now, pretty much everybody get it from Black Twitter, but I'm talking about as far as news sources are concerned, not the investigative reporters of Black Twitter. Just, those people that actually have a card. So I am mentioning this because I am so confused. Why would law enforcement hesitate and wait? Nobody pulled the door. It's like a complete comedy of errors that in a perfect storm only would have occurred, and all of that occurred in Uvalde. Now, here's the conspiracy part out of it. I'm just going to get this to y'all. Do what y'all want to with it. The belief from the GOP, from the Republicans, is that there is a movement to remove people from the ability to bear arms, to have guns, to protect themselves. And because of that, the belief is that they will remove everybody's guns and then declare martial law, and then they'll be able to tell everybody what to do. Now, that's a conspiracy theory. I'm not telling you I believe it. I'm not telling you I don't. I'm just telling you what they said. But it did start me to thinking as to why nobody would go in there and rescue those babies. I mean, 19 children. And then you had a mother that went in and got her 2 kids, and no police officers acted rogue. Every police officer listened to their commander and didn't move. It just seems completely unconscionable. And so these other things come into play where the Republicans are literally talking about they are trying, that their faction, whether it's Democrats or others, that are trying to take your guns away and they don't want you to bear arms. Now, I don't think you need an AR-15. I don't think you need that unless you feel like you're in a war. But statistically, when you talk about mass shootings, it's usually handguns that are used, just like the Mansfield Fieldhouse. We're really familiar with the Mansfield Fieldhouse. I think all people in the southern part of the city are super familiar with the Mansfield Fieldhouse, and they had a fool go in there, black man, go in there and shoot and discharge 2 bullets before they, killed him. But mass shootings typically happen with handguns, not military-style weaponry like we hear about, because, of course, that's more sensationalized. But if any thought process was given to the idea that they want to create an environment where people would relinquish their guns, willingly, then you have to ask yourself, why? Why would that be the case? Why would that be the kind of control that they seek? And I'm not sure I have an answer to that, but I do think that it is bizarre. I think that it is extremely odd, because before it was racial. You had a white man that went into Tops grocery store and shot up a bunch of Buffalo, New York citizens, residents. But I thought it was odd then that many of the people that were actually killed were people that were leaders in that community, not 2 or 3, but more like 20. There were leaders in the community. I was like, my God, it's as if those people were being targeted. I mean, the man who took people to and from the store, you could say, well, you know, of course he would be at the store because he takes people back and forth, but it's just odd. And then we have Uvalde, where they chose not to. They had the weaponry, they had the artillery, they had the ammunition, they had body armor, they had cops with a willingness, and nobody went in there to save those babies. And then you have the man who seemingly, by his attorney's admission, was drugged. I do not know what is going on in America, but I do know that they are looking desperately to control, to have the amount of control like you see in China, where people don't have groceries because they've been quarantined, forcibly quarantined, and they can't go anywhere, and the grocery stores are not open, and there's a small, quiet little undercurrent there because people are hungry because they're not able to get the food that they need. That kind of control, the kind of control where Putin, if you talk or speak against him, then he has you poisoned. That one man had been poisoned 6 or 7 times. I know, our cat ain't got but 9 lives, so we do know that he probably don't have 2 or 3 more. And then I think about Trump and the faction that supports Trump, that claims, even the ones like Mitch McConnell that claim that they hate him quietly, will still support him. I think about those things. I think about those things because the effort to remove control, so that you don't have control of your own life, so that they then can tell you what to do and how to do it. And Trump was moving in that way, and it was thwarted. He couldn't believe that he wasn't able to pull it off. And here we are, looking down the gaze of 2024, trying to stop him legally from being able to do it. Because what is going to happen if you have someone who has absolutely no care, fear, thought processes of right and wrong and how they should operate? There is a quiet movement to do something in this country that we will not like. I do not know exactly what that is, but it is the thing that makes you stop and think about it. Because these mass shootings, they keep saying it is mental illness. Well, is it? Is it mental illness? I mean, or is it medicated people who we have done a disservice to and underserved? Because you have children that they put on ADHD medicine and Ritalin and all kinds of things and then later on they're still dependent on medication, and then you say, oh, this is mental illness. Is it? Or is it controlled substance mind control? I mean, I don't know, but I just think that we are heavily medicated, and then we get the backlash of it, and then we sit there and say it's mental illness. All this is not mental illness. Some of this has to be contrived and controlled by something, because if we know that these things called mental illness, like Skittles. Did y'all know that Skittles are banned in most parts of the world except for America? Because of the dye. Red dye number 40, yellow dye, and it causes children's brains to operate in a certain way that we don't want. Did you know that? Skittles. We allow it. Other countries do not. So is it mental illness? Or is it unhealthy lifestyle? Is it them telling you to get shot up several times by a vaccine that has proven not to work? Or is it them telling you to take vitamin C, vitamin D, to take zinc, and to incorporate healthy fruits and vegetables into your diet, to drink lots of water, get rest, and do other, the whole fruits and vegetables, whether it's in a supplement or otherwise, so that your body remains healthy, so that it has the tools to fight off any disease? Is that what that is? Or is it them manipulating you in a way, creating food deserts, and then saying, oh, mental illness? I know that most people have a wheat intolerance or a dairy intolerance. I had my children tested, and we know that wheat and dairy affects them and me, because I nurse my children. My mother doesn't want to accept it. She has the allergy. My dad's nose always runs after he eats wheat, and he asked me why, and I told him, although he keeps eating it. Because that's what we do as Americans. We don't stop doing the things that are harmful to us. We keep it up. That boy. So with that being said, the food that our grandparents ate, or even our parents ate, or even that we ate when we were younger is not the same. Remember when iodine used to be in everything? Now you can't hardly find it in anything. Iodine removes toxins from the body. I want y'all to think about how you moving. We talked about dating. Some of y'all can't date because y'all ticky boom boom. Because, little things set you off. That's an intolerance to wheat. If you are easily agitated, you need to ask yourself what is in your diet. I know that's not what y'all were expecting today, because today I'm full of emotion, because I feel like we are being harmed by the very people who are supposed to take care of us, the people that we allow to be in positions of power, to ultimately make the best decisions for the greater good, for the collective majority, and we are not getting that. And those of you that are struggling in your dating life, as you do your self-introspection, also ask yourself about your diet. You are what you put in your body. So if you put in a bunch of unhealthy things, then you're going to be unhealthy, and you're going to have an unhealthy dating life. I'm just saying. So since everybody is out here looking for the same thing, liberty, truth, justice, and the American way, I think we ought to research how we get there. And just allowing things to happen to us, we got to do better. We got to be better. We're going to have to do more. More like listen to this show. This is the Black Tea Sip with Coy. We'll do it again next week. Lola will be here. I'm going to take a vacation. I need a vacation. I'm going to take it. I may try to call in, but Lola will be here, and we'll do it again, same bat time, same bat channel. Happy 4th of July. Celebrate your independence from being controlled. Mwah! Sun kissed by God's lips. I love you, people. See you again. Peace out.